Hello, and I am here today with Tati Paints. How are you today, Tati?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, we just did a collab for Mermay last month, and we did a sketch swap, and both of us did our own version of the other's painting. So, Tati, how did you feel about doing our collaboration together?
Oh my goodness. Sorry, this is the second time we're recording this. You've actually changed up your first question. So let me just think here. Doing the collaboration was a first experience for me. I've never done one before, and I think the first thing that struck me was how different artists' methods can be and how interesting it can be to like look through someone's PSD file, just like the different things that can be there depending on their approach. So it's really interesting to receive your PSD and then just go through it and appreciate all the things that were there, and then put a game plan forward to dissect it and go through it and kind of get inspired by it, and then move along and make a piece.
So it was kind of awkward for you to deal with my PSD file, I guess, because I work so much differently than you.
I wouldn't say awkward. It was a big surprise. I think that a lot of us tend to get really deep inside of our own head, and like it's almost like we forget other people have different methods. So when I received yours and it had like, and I think I'm exaggerating here, but like 56 different layers, I was struck with the reality that like not everyone approaches a piece in the same way. And so for me it was like going through all the different layers and then associating it by background, middle ground, foreground, and then the character. And then just kind of hearing you out on what the piece should be, like what your inspirations were. See, I asked you for a mood board. That was great information because I actually used a lot of your images from your mood board to create my piece. Um, and it was really interesting. Um, to say the least about it. It was good to get into a different mindset. Kind of shook things up. I liked the way that the final piece ended up.
It looked really cool, kind of cool and creepy. So, my second question, and it was originally my first question, how long have you been an artist?
I would say as long as I could pick up a crayon. My mom was an old school pointillism artist, and so she just, being the enthusiastic artist that she is, just would just give me art supplies all the time. Any birthday or like Christmas or anything like that. That's what I would get. And my grandfather, um, he built houses for a living. He was a master carpenter, but he also loved to carve things. So he did multiple different carvings of animals. And I would say there are a lot of creatives in my family. So it's definitely in the genes.
It's always cool to be around creative people from a young age. It kind of fosters it for you.
True. Very true.
So, what does being an artist mean to you?
I would say it's my voice. So everyone that I knew that was an artist always always kind of held my and valued that creativeness inside me. And so what I crave the most is to inspire other people to continue on their art journey. I would say one of the biggest things for me was growing up and watching Tarzan. Phil Collins did this thing where he learned like 5 or 6 different linguistical versions of his songs in order to he himself record with his own voice the different languages for those songs. So I watched all of my Disney movies um, in français canadien. So that's Canadian French. And it's my mother tongue, and so I watched a lot of Disney movies in that language, and it's magical because the same songs from Tarzan that you know and listen to or have listened to, I listened to growing up from the same voice with different lyrics, and it really it really inspired me when I read on the Wikipedia page that he did that. Um, and I'm sure I could sit here and name like so many other people who have gone above and beyond to really touch um, people's hearts with their particular form of art. Um, but that's really what I want to do is reach people emotionally.
You're also, that reminds me of the guy that played Rasputin in Anastasia. He sang the song "In the Dark of the Night." There's a recording of that you can go find where he sang it in Russian. But
Wow.
it just goes to show that I guess that composer really wanted to get his idea across to a larger audience. So that's really cool that he did that.
Yeah.
So both of us work in digital, obviously. That's kind of how we came to meet. But what is your favorite medium besides digital? For example, mine is colored pencils or just regular pencils when I'm not working digitally if I choose to work traditionally. Um, what is your favorite medium besides digital?
My favorite medium is oil. I actually was quite young when I um, acquired a set of oils, and I really, really loved how it didn't dry up. One of my one of my biggest Achilles heels was the fact that I'm a perfectionist, and so whenever I would paint something, I'd get really annoyed working with acrylics because I couldn't achieve the blend I wanted to in the amount of time it takes for acrylic to dry. So
Acrylics do
when
dry
I
fast.
yeah, yeah, and some people even use blow dryers to make it to dry up faster. I'm like, I don't know how you can do that, but yeah, when I discovered oils, it was like I just fell in love because I could blend till the cows come home. It did not matter. I could just keep blending and blending, and I achieved some really, really nice pieces. One of which is hanging in my room to this day. Now, I did like watercolor as well, but I don't have as much experience in it. And I also didn't like that as soon as you put your brush down on there, it's kind of permanent. Like the
Yeah,
paper heals
I
itself really quickly, and then
it
if you mess
does.
up, you're kind of
And it soaks right into the
lost
paper
love.
really fast.
Oh yeah. You really have to plan what you're about to do, and you have to be okay with the fact that watercolor has its own life. It decides where it wants to go, and that's just
Watercolor
part of
pencils
life.
kind of help with that. So does doing just a wet wash on your page without applying paint, but still you're not
Oh, that's
wrong.
true. Yeah.
um,
Oh man.
so my least favorite medium is charcoal. I had an experience in high school where I tried to work with it and I tried to do basically a fan art of Pocahontas, and everybody in my class said it came out looking like some sort of Marilyn Manson type of portrait. So if you had a least favorite medium, what would it be?
First off, I have to say that's really unfortunate. I think we've all had pieces where it didn't quite come out how we wanted it to. Um, but yeah, it's really hard to come up with a least favorite medium. I've always been in love with so many different mediums. I can say that I've tried a lot, and I have never once met a medium I couldn't get along with, if you get my drift. I think, oh man, I think the most challenging one, ironically, now that I'm thinking about it, would be China ink pointillism, which is what my mom does. My mom can make a whole image with nothing but dots and like an old school China ink pen. And like I'm not talking about those like microns where you have the pen loaded up already. I'm talking like quill
Like a
and
dip
like
pen.
a pot of ink. Yeah. And she just meticulously just dots and dots and dots. And it's so easy to mess up. Like you could just dip your pen the wrong way, and then all of a sudden a big splotch of ink is on your image, and you've already worked for like 5 hours on it. Like
Ooh.
that would drive me insane. I tried doing it a few times in my life, and I think I didn't have the patience it required at that time. However, I don't feel the inclination to try again. I'm
See,
much,
that
much
method,
happier in my digital.
I know that method to be called stippling, but I actually didn't know for sure what you meant by pointillism at first, but now you just described it. You described what I know as stippling, which I have done, but I've only ever done it with like a Sharpie fine tip pen. I've never done it with a dip pen, so I'm sure that that changes the dynamic quite a bit.
Yeah, so pointillism is actually a movement. Um, it came about, I believe, during the Renaissance. There's like the black and white version, which my mom does, and then there's the color version where if you look up
No.
close, you'll see dots of yellow and blue and purple, and then you'll move away from the image and it looks green. It's really, really cool. If you've ever seen some of these paintings like up close, it's amazing.
Dude, that reminds me, like, I've seen a mural once, and it was literally a big portrait of Abraham Lincoln. But when you got up closer to the mural, the entire mural was made up of these teeny tiny, like, half-inch by half-inch or 1 inch by 1 inch little pictures of Abraham Lincoln. And they all formed together to make, like, a big mural of him that covered an entire wall. So I get the idea. It's how your eye blends it together when you're further away.
Absolutely. And you can do that with any kind of painting, really.
Wouldn't have the patience to do that. I've actually looked at that and went, "Dear Lord, this almost looks more like a math equation than art to me." But hashtag respect just the same, because somebody
I
had to sit
tried
there
to
and
do that.
figure out where the values were at in all these little images to get them right in the bigger image, and I was just like, "There's no way I would do that."
I had to do that for a project in my 12th grade art class. We actually had this thing where our teacher, it was really funny. I like show up to 12th grade pre-university uh, art class and sit at my desk, and I'm just waiting for my art teacher who just last semester um, had given me project by project every week, right? And she drops this like 20-page syllabus on my desk, and like just this big, right? This thud.
Was she trying to be scary?
No. No, she wasn't. She wasn't trying to be scary. It was just like the dramatic effect of having the entire semester syllabus just dropped on my desk was like, I
Do this all
understood
by
the message.
tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow. But I understood what she meant. She meant pull up your big girl pants. It's time to take charge of your art career if you want to. And basically she just said, "Okay, here's all the things that I would have told you to do week by week. Why don't you look through it, do it in whatever order you want? And at the end of your semester, I want you to pick a corner of the school, and in that corner, you are to set up the entire semester's worth of art up in a display, and I will judge the whole thing in one go. That will be your entire grade."
That's
And
intimidating.
it was great. It was fantastic. I loved it. I did my oils first, right? So that if I wanted to do multiple dryings, I could. So I did the whole background in one go. I let it dry. And in the meantime, I did like, watercolor, photography, acrylic, and then I came back to my oil and I did like this really like nice rose on top of it. And then I let that dry, and in the meantime I did my sculpture, my clay pots, um what else? I did China ink, and then I came back to my oil again, and I did like final touches, and I signed it and all that. And then I did a few more projects, and then I had to arrange the whole thing in an artsy way so that people would be attracted to the display, right? Because you were also graded on how you
Your
arranged.
presentation.
Yeah. I got a 99, and I was really mad at my art teacher. I remember walking in her classroom and being like, why? I did so well. Like, I did so much work. Everyone is so attracted to my display. Like, everyone's telling me it's great. And I will always remember she leaned in and she said, art can always be improved. You will never reach a point in your life where you will feel satisfied with your pieces. Keep painting. And it was just, it changed me. I was just like, oh, because it's not like math or English or anything like that. You cannot get 100%. And she said, that's just a grade I don't give away in art.
At least she wasn't mean about it because so many people, myself included, can be really touchy about anything and everything someone says.
Oh, yeah. She was the kind of teacher that really, it mattered to her that
She
you
was
were
making the point.
yeah, it mattered to her for you to think about your career and your goals and to grow as a person in character and in skill. Like, it was so important to her, and she is by far my favorite teacher. You know, out of all the teachers I've had, and I've had several like favorite teachers, but yeah, Madame Nadine Malou, she was a French teacher as well, but she really changed a lot of things for me.
I've heard that you can't get a 100 before, but I never had a teacher sit down and like make the point like that. It's something that I heard people say later, I think, later than high school. But I can relate to the whole "you didn't give me 100%. I'm so mad at you." I can totally relate to that. So, you might have already sort of answered this talking about the Tarzan soundtrack, but what does being an artist mean to you? And what does art mean to you? What are your artistic goals?
Okay, I think there's one question I've already answered is what being an artist means to me. And then you've got two more. Um, art means to me the ability to put into tangible form my character, emotions, and soul. I'm able to, for others to see, display the deeper parts within myself in a way that doesn't make people feel uncomfortable. It makes people understand and see the reality that is who they are as it relates to someone else. Um, and then, sorry, the last question you asked, can you just repeat that for me?
What are your artistic goals?
My goals. So I want to reach a lot more people, and I want to do it in a way that really reaches them instead of in a way that is like, oh, that's nice. You know, like, it doesn't matter to me that someone look at my painting and think, oh, that's pretty. What matters to
You want
me
them to
is that,
relate to it.
yeah, I want them to relate to it. I want them to remember it. Like, I don't even care if it doesn't reach them in the moment. Like, I want to know that 6 days later, they were doing something and all of a sudden it clicked with them and they were like, oh, that's what that piece was about. I understand now. Or something of the like. It doesn't matter if it's like that moment, 2 seconds later, 6 minutes, I don't care. I just want to make pieces that help people on their journey as much as it helped me to make the painting itself.
A little bit deeper than my thoughts on it because I've never really thought about it like that. I just am very creatively driven, so that's a big difference between us is that I never think about touching people. I just think, "Oh, I have cool characters and I see worlds in my head and I want to show them off." So, a bit of a big difference between you and I.
Yeah, there's definitely like two camps of people. There's like designers and then there's like um I hate to call it like true artists because it doesn't disqualify the former from being true. It's just like a different camp, but I don't know how to describe the second one. Maybe like emotional artist, but it's not quite that. Um, but yeah, I definitely fall into the second camp, the like more emotionally driven artist. Because when people ask me to do design work, just to just design a character, I can do it. Like, I have no problem doing it.
Oh,
It's
and I
just I
can
have
tell
less
just
time.
from hearing your voice that it just doesn't, you're not as
It does
inspired.
it doesn't do it for me. I can do it. Like, if somebody pays me, like,
It's just work.
oh, I'm into it.
It's
But,
a job.
like, yeah, if somebody asks me to create a piece that reaches them or that they'll appreciate, I can get into that. I get really passionate about finding out what I can do to make the piece special for them. Um, yeah.
So, as my closing thought, because it's something that I think matters for anybody who paints or draws or pursues art in any way, uh, a message that I would always try to send people, and I might do this in the future with like every collab I ever make or every video where I ever talk about anything like this. But I think people need to remember that they need to try not to compare themselves to others and remember that being an artist is a journey and not a race, and you should always try to be better than yourself yesterday and not necessarily try to be somebody else. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I heard that a lot. Unfortunately, and this isn't because I'm full of myself, this was just the reality of my situation. I went to a very small high school. I was always the number one student in my art classes, and it was the unfortunate many times that I had to sit there and watch a very frustrated classmate go, "Well, look at what she's doing. I can't do that." And like get really, really sad. And it always made me feel two things. It made me feel proud that I could achieve something that somebody else couldn't. And then it made me feel so incredibly guilty for feeling the first emotion, right? Because not everyone can do that depending on their level of skill and their level of time commitment for it. But also, in the very wise words of that same teacher from earlier, she would delicately go to that student and tell them to compare themselves to themselves a year ago. And that's why it was so important. She would encourage us to keep all of our artwork, even if we hated it, because in 5 years, you could look back and be like, wow, look at the insane progress. Like, I have pieces from 2 years ago. If you want, I'll send them to you. You can like show them
Oh, that would
in
be
this video.
awesome. That
Yeah,
that would
I'll
be
send
really
you a
cool.
yeah, they're really bad. I'll send them to you. And then you can display a few of my new pieces in juxtaposition. I have grown so much in 2 years because I only started digital painting 2 years ago, right? And I'm insanely proud of the amount of um, ground I've covered in that time, right? But it's so true. Like, you have to just compare yourself to yourself. You can't go around and compare yourself to everyone else. Like, I could compare myself to so many artists in my community and absolutely be devastated. But instead, what I do is I compare myself to myself, and then on a day a week or something, I'll go on ArtStation or I'll go and check out all my friends in Lightbox Expo and like click and like all of their content. My goodness, some of those people are just devastatingly amazing. And it can be very, very difficult to see that if you don't have the right mindset, right? So I think in closing, what I'd like to say is that if you can choose to be something for someone else when they're having a hard day, then you can choose to do that for yourself. Like, just be the person you needed when you were having a bad day. Like, I'm pretty sure when I was 21, the person that I am today would have been of great help. And that's why I try to do that for everyone in my surroundings. Let's try to be that person I needed in a time of weakness.
That's a really good way to think about that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here with me today, and I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day, Miss Tati.
Thank you. And
I
yourself.
will
My
be
pleasure.
sharing all of your links in the description below. So everybody who watches this video, go check out Tati's social media. You won't regret it. And thanks for watching.